Good morning, everyone. This is today's video, and our subject today is self-perception and self-doubt. And we're going to talk about that because it's important if you're going to become an entrepreneur or just a private person wanting to lead a happy life. It involves a lot of work to make sure that you feel entitled to that kind of a lifestyle. The reason I chose this today is a couple of things. I met someone recently who is raised in a very traditional Christian household and who has since given up the idea of maybe working for a living for himself and wants to work for others and give to the world. And in fact, even save the world. And I thought that that was a very interesting choice of occupations because it shows a couple of things. It shows a very healthy self-esteem, and it shows a very strong willingness to give and to be of service to others. On the other hand, it also is very self-effacing to the point where I'm wondering where in this person's life does he have time to take care of himself and take care of his family. So, for example, if you are plagued with self-doubt, then you might be tempted to find your validation outside of yourself in the service and in the deeds that you do in the world. And this is part of a very traditional upbringing where we're encouraged to find our self-worth in that way, and our merits will be judged, at the end of our life, and we'll go to a heaven or some sort of a nirvana or a place where all our troubles and cares will be gone. But it also implies in a way that life on earth is going to be miserable and a path of suffering and a path of never getting what you want and accepting it anyway and just going on with a bold face and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. Now, some of those things are a good thing for us to do in our lives, get over setbacks and pull yourself up when you're down. Those are honorable traits. But the idea that you can never be happy in your life and the idea that you must be filled with eternal suffering are some of the foundations that lead to our sense of self-worth and in some cases our self-doubt. Because if we feel that we don't have any control over what we do in our lives and that our concept of what happens to us is external all the time, it's easy for us to fall into that trap of thinking that there's nothing we can do about it. And for example, our bodies that we're given are the ones that we have, and there's nothing we can do about them. They are what they are. Whether we're blind, born blind, or became blind, or paralyzed, or lost a limb in a war, or something like that, sometimes we find something that we're discontented with, and we use that as the basis for an ongoing sense of misery. Now, I've known people who are paralyzed. For example, I knew a gal who was a cheerleader in her high school and then college, and then she was teaching cheering one summer and broke her neck and was paralyzed from the neck down. And she actually has one of the most indomitable spirits that I've ever met, because she has overcome her limitation in her mobility and moved it into an incredible expansion of her spirit and her personality and her sense of joy and wonder at being alive, which is something you might not have imagined if you could see yourself or picture yourself in her shoes. So that's the kind of thing I want you to imagine for a little bit and wonder if you could change something about yourself. Would that make you happy? If you could suddenly have everything that you think you want, would that make you happy? And would the having of it just make you happy? And so if you can imagine that, even if you don't have it right now, maybe that happiness is something that you want to strive towards. That getting past your limitations of what is right now and thinking ahead to something that can be. Now, am I saying that, that Jenny's going to walk again? I don't know. Maybe our culture isn't quite there yet, but maybe in the future there will be some advances that will allow people to believe that they can do that. Maybe there'll be a few little aids, little technological or biomedical aids that will help people believe that they can do that. And maybe one day we'll get to a point where you can lose a hand and regrow it. Like, like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, his little baby hand that starts to regrow. Who knows what we're capable of? But I do know this, if you don't believe that you can, you certainly can't. And if you don't believe that you're worthy, that's the next important thing, and that's self-worth. Okay, so we have self-esteem, we have self-worth. Those are sort of intertwined, because if you don't believe you deserve to be happy, then why would you ever feel happy? And if you believe that, for example, even something as simple as a compliment that something gives you has to be shrugged off in the name of modesty, well, think again, because yes, modesty is important. You don't want to be a braggart and go around and I'm so great and I'm so this and shoving your wares in someone else's face, which in many cases could even be interpreted as a call for attention on its own, because we're not loving ourselves and feeling worthy on our own. But when you get to the point where you feel self-worth, you don't really have anything to prove, because your opinion is not dependent upon what other people think. So you're not waiting for somebody to compliment you, but you're not eschewing it when someone does either. You can simply say thanks. You don't have to go, oh, my hairdresser did it, or oh, these clothes are old, or oh, my mom, you know, I have her eyes. You can just say thanks and be happy that that person enjoyed whatever feeling they got from your loveliness today. That's a wonderful place to be. Now, if your self-doubt comes from inside of yourself, you're not waiting for other people to validate you, and you're not worried about what they think, if they enjoy your look today or not. It's yourself that's your demon. When you look in the mirror, you're never happy. Or when you go to approach a task, you never feel that you can do it. Or when you start out on an adventure that you're unsure of, you get afraid and fall apart, or afraid you'll fall apart, or you do fall apart and never even start. Now, those are very limiting self-beliefs that come from our self-concept, and they come from our sense of self-esteem inside our own selves. You know, there are things that you can change, and our lives aren't fixed in a point in time when our self-concept was developed, like maybe in high school, or after some big achievement and then nothing since. Or maybe we've gained some weight. Or maybe we always felt our nose was too big, or we couldn't do math, or whatever limiting belief that you have is something that will remain a limiting belief unless you either challenge yourself to overcome it, or you just start out from a place that says, I'm not going there. I'm not going to assume that I can't do something until I actually try. And even if I can't do it right away, depending on how important it is to me, I may continue to learn so that I can become better. If I really want to learn to do something, then most people just don't walk onto the field and be a star, or jump out of an airplane and intuitively know how to open a parachute. You need instructions in order to try new things so that you don't hurt yourself. But that said, just because you don't make it the first time doesn't mean that you should quit. It's the same way in business. So if you have something that you're learning, whether it's a new skill, like internet marketing, for example, which is what I do. I wanted to learn it, but I didn't want to hunt and peck and try to figure it all out by myself. I wanted to go to a place where I could get a foundation and an education. I wanted to learn from people who were actually doing what they were talking about, and they were actually making money from the principles that they were going to teach me. I was willing to pay for that education in the same way that I would pay for surfing lessons or horseback riding lessons, or, you know, go to college and pay a tuition there. But it doesn't cost as much, thankfully. And the access to entry into that business line isn't nearly as expensive as some other businesses that I've tried in my life. And so, you know, I'm really happy with my choice. But my point is, I didn't know a lot about it, so I went and I learned. And as a result, now I'm experiencing, you know, a sense of achievement. And my expectations are in line with my achievements. So in other words, I don't expect to spend 50 cents and make $500, or spend, you know, $500 and make $5 million. We need to have reasonable expectations as we build our way up the ladder of success and as we change our lives. I didn't expect to lose, 50 pounds in a weekend either. But I'm down 20 and it's working out. So it's all about self-esteem and how you feel about yourself going forward. Take the step, believe in yourself, because if you say you can or you say you can't, either way, you're right. Lily out. Till next time.